Welcome back. I'm Luke Crummich. The other man on your screen is Tyler DeSena, and the We Ball podcast is back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm happy. That guy's happy. And we hope you're happy to hear the sweet sounds of our voices coming through your ear holes. We're really excited to be back. It's about that time, Tyler. And I know people are probably thinking we're gonna get right into 2024. We're not. Hey, we love 2023 so much. We want to talk about them even more. So today we will be doing a rookie team to watch this preseason. I'm very excited for this, Tyler. How you been, buddy?
I've been good. Obviously, again, another small hiatus here, but the summer was busy, obviously, for both of us. We're getting closer and closer to the time that we're going to have a lot more time to record and get you content. And we figured the preseason's on its way. The regular season is not that far behind, especially, for the NFL. So why not bring up some guys who recently got drafted and could make impacts for their teams, and not a lot of the guys are talking about them. So yeah, that's going to be the basis of this podcast here is we've both assembled a team of, I believe it's 5 offensive positions, 5 defensive positions. We are going to pretty much give a guy that we think is a sleeper, not many people are looking at, to contribute, but we think that they're going to have a pretty big role. And that starts off with quarterback. And I'm going to invite you to go first.
Listen, I had to take your guy. This is a guy you're very vocally happy that he got picked to this team, very vocally, very pro this guy. You got to talk to him in Mobile. I got to record you talking to him in Mobile, and that man is one Jake Hayner. I'm gonna be honest, I have no faith in Derek Carr. I don't think I ever have. And him being with the Saints, it just doesn't feel right. And I feel like it's going to crash and burn. And there will be one Jake Hayner ready to pounce and either do really good or land them Caleb Williams, Drake May, or Quinn Ewers. So,
Yeah, that's pretty much the gist with Jake Hayner. I was obviously high on him, like you said, but you took him, and I decided I was going to take a guy that you got to talk to in Mobile. So I guess good segue from you and somebody who happens to look like he could be your relative.
all right.
It's Clayton Tune. We have no clue who's going to start at quarterback for the Cardinals, and it's
It could be
very
him.
likely that it could be Clayton Tune, knowing that they have a first-year head coach in Jonathan Gannon. He's not going to lose his job this season, so he might as well see what the rookies got. They drafted him. They obviously, believe in him somewhat. I think he's gotten some reps with the ones, or if not, they're probably going to come at some point. So this is somebody that I think will be exciting to watch in the preseason because, it's a rookie quarterback, but is also somebody who could be, a 10 plus game starter in the league this upcoming season. Obviously, I think a lot of people expect the Cardinals to not be great, but who knows? Maybe it's a Davis Mills situation where he's good enough to buy himself more time and then eventually maybe a starting job down the road.
Listen, I love Clayton Tune, and he was an awesome guy to talk to. But Arizona is such like just it's a dump right now. Like it's a trailer park full of trailer parks, and nothing wrong with trailer parks, by the way. I'm just saying like it's in the middle of the heat. There's nothing going on, and nobody really wants to talk about them right now unless they're talking about what's going to happen in the future. And I just I hope Clayton does well because he's a really nice dude, but there's nothing more to say about Arizona. So we're going to move on to our wide receivers. And we are going to talk about, well, I'm going to talk about a man who needs no introduction on this podcast in particular. He's getting reps with the ones while Joe Burrow is out, and he's catching balls from Trevor Simeon, and he looked really good doing it. Whoa. His name is Andre Yoshavas, and he is our dog, bro. Andre is such a good guy, and he's such a good football player, and he's such a good athlete. And I don't bet against athletes. I bet with athletes. Not like, hey, I don't want anyone to get in trouble. I'm not saying I'm betting on games with athletes. I'm saying I bet on athletic traits. Just saying, I don't want an Isaiah Rodgers situation going on in the Wee Ball facility. But Andre's going to be that guy. I truly believe that. He's wearing 80. He looks good doing it. And there's nothing that can tell me he's going to be bad this season. Like, you can't prove it to me.
Yeah, I mean, we watched Andre, and he looked like when we watched him at the Senior Bowl, he looked like a guy who was going to start NFL games at times. He made great catches, was getting separation, was making plays one on one. He just looked like an NFL player out there. And another guy who looked like an NFL player out there and also got drafted to a pretty favorable situation in a different way, just because I don't think there's that many receivers above him. It's Xavier Hutchinson, who ended up getting drafted to the Houston Texans. And Hutch is a guy that, again, like I said, was just really consistent throughout the Senior Bowl at making plays. This was a guy who really didn't have that many like super high highs, but not many super low lows either. Just kind of a guy that kept showing up, and you're like, who's that again? And then he would just keep making plays. And I think we were a lot higher on him than when he got picked, which was just later on. And obviously, this is a team that drafted Tank Dell, and we expect him to get some work. But Hutchinson is somebody who can play more of that X role, and that's kind of what this team is looking for. I mean, maybe it's like Nico Collins, but there's just not a ton of depth in Houston, and this is somebody who has a combination of size, route running, and really good hands. So when I can bet on those three traits in a young guy to go get production on an overall really young team, I'm going to do it.
I mean, obviously, John Mechie's coming back from his battle with cancer. Incredible to see him back. Wishing the best. I love John Mechie. I'm a Bama fan. Everybody knows that. But Hutch has a real opportunity because, like you said, there is no depth, and with a rookie quarterback, being able to throw to fellow rookies is sometimes their MO. Like they get comfortable with the guys they get to see in mini camp. They get comfortable with guys that they either were in college with, played against in college, saw in college, heard about a lot in college.
Yeah.
And everyone talked about Hutch for 4 years and then just didn't talk about, or 3 years, and then just didn't talk about him a senior year because everyone was expecting a really good season. And he lost Brock Purdy and he lost Brees Hall. And there was literally nothing he could do to get open because he was being double covered on every single play for Iowa State, and a bad Iowa State team at that.
Yeah, and I think with Hutch, I mean, another thing you were talking about, you're talking about the guys that they get reps within rookie mini camp. But a lot of the times that can tail into training camp because of the fact that a lot of these rookie quarterbacks don't get all of the reps with the ones. And a lot of the times they're getting reps with the twos. So who else is going to be on those second teams before they start getting reps with the starters? Those backup wide receivers who often end up being rookies. So I think that's why we see a lot of the rookie connection. But here we are moving on to the running backs. I'll go first here. I mean, this is kind of going to be the common theme here. I think my entire team almost is made up of Senior Bowl guys, just because obviously those were a lot of the guys we
Jim,
were
I
high
hope you're
on,
listening.
guys we got to see in person, and guys who honestly, a lot of them just got drafted to good situations, and that's the case here with Roshan Johnson. Obviously, everyone talks about Bijan Robinson being the Texas back, but Roshan Johnson got drafted to a really good situation for himself in Chicago. They're a power running team. I think they ran the ball the most out of every team in the NFL last year, and they're going to do it again. That is a team that just likes to pound the rock. They want Justin Fields to have as much help around him as possible. And as much as Khalil Herbert is willing to take that workload, you know that he can't get all of the touches in that offense. And Roshan Johnson is built to last and is built to, like I said, just get touches and play a power run system. So he's kind of my guy when it comes to the running backs for somebody who could easily sneak together more than 500 yards. And you could be like looking through the depth chart. And it's like, hey, Khalil Herbert had 1,000, but this guy also had 600 plus. I think he is a really good number two and somebody who at times can be a number one in that offense.
So I am heading down to Jacksonville. I know ETN's like the guy out there, but ETN is not a third down back. Like, I hate to break it to everybody. He's not a third down back. You can try your best to make him one, but it doesn't work. And we've seen that. You know who is a very good third down back, Tyler?
Hank Bigsby.
Tank Bigsby. Listen, I'm vocally anti Tank Bigsby, not because I think he's like the most atrociously bad running back of all time. But because I've heard so much hype on him just for him to kind of, you know, just go through the motions throughout college, there was just so much hype around him as a freshman after he had a really good season. And then he just kind of like coasted, which might be because he was playing with Bo Nix. And like Finley, like who else was a quarterback there? I think they had a rookie from like not a rookie, true freshman from some prep school in Alabama
Yeah,
this
I
year
honestly
at
couldn't
Auburn.
tell you.
Like the guy's name was Robbie, and if my quarterback's name was Robbie, I don't think I trust him to run an offense. Um, so I'm going with Tank Bigsby because I think the upside's there, but I need to see some development, and he fits what ETN doesn't. So I think he's just going to produce. Like this is simply a pick of this guy's going to produce this year because there's a hole where he plays.
Yeah, and you are mentioning exactly what I'm going to be mentioning moving on to tight end here. Obviously, like you said with Bigsby, somebody who's just pretty much slots right into a role on a team. And with these sleepers, that's really hard to come by because a lot of them were drafted in the later rounds and were drafted as depth pieces. I literally said it with Roshan Johnson. There's kind of redundancy there. But somebody there's not with redundancy with at tight end is the Dolphins' Elijah Higgins. And you might be saying that I'm picking him because I'm a Dolphins fan, but I'm going to say there's just not another tight end on the roster who plays that kind of role. They've got some more traditional Y guys. He's more of an F tight end, move tight end kind of guy. He's not going to be a real inline blocker. He's a big slot kind of piece, similar to what they had in Mike Gesicki last year. And Mike Gesicki, a lot of people were like, oh, he didn't produce enough. He still had like 500 plus yards. That's a pretty big role for, any player in an offense. And they're still going to have to piece together when you lose him, Trent Sherfield. I can imagine Waddle and Tyreek are not going to get the same amount of production. There's a lot of yards that are going to be lost in that offense that need to be recouped by other players. So Higgins is in a perfect spot, in my opinion, to get reps early and get reps often. He's already made a couple of plays in training camp going into the preseason. I think he's a guy who's going to see a lot of time on the field, and down the stretch of the season could turn himself into the starting tight end on that team. With that being said, who is your tight end?
First of all, I want to say, listen, we are a big F tight end podcast. I think that is kind of obvious.
Huge.
We're a big F tight end podcast. However, I am taking basically an O lineman who can catch and run fast, and his name is Darnell Washington.
My tight end
Darnell Washington is going to produce. It might not be in yardage, but he's going to push people to the ground, and Najee Harris is going to score touchdowns. Like it's
he's a
simple
good
as that.
football player. It might not translate, like you said, the yards and like the literal stat numbers, but he's a good football player,
and he's an athlete.
And if he's healthy enough to play, which right now he's practicing for them, there's no reason he should have been there in the fourth round.
Yeah. I mean, listen, Pat Freiermuth is going to get the lion's share, maybe even like the scar share where he just kills the entire, planes. He's going to get that type of share of the yardage. But listen,
but he isn't the blocker
Darnell is. The hyena's got to eat. You got to let the big boys get out there. You got to let them push people over. He's an O lineman who's faster than you and stronger than you and can still catch the ball. Like he doesn't have bad hands. He's just
not at all
really large, and it takes him a little bit to get downfield. But he's fast enough to like beat people. So I don't understand how this man made it so far down the draft board. And I think he's just going to be good. Like, simple as that.
Attention fantasy football fanatics. As draft season approaches, don't neglect the most important draft pick of all, your game balls. We all know how injuries can ruin a season, so let MANSCAPED take care of that Reggie Bush of yours with their skin-safe technology. That should guarantee you to have a smooth ride into the playoffs. The leaders in the below-the-waist grooming have created a championship lineup with their Performance Package 4.0, and it's time for you to do the same. Join the 9 million men around the world who trust Manscaped and get ready for kickoff by going to manscaped.com for 20% off plus free shipping when you use code WEBALL. We all know that confidence is the biggest thing, whether it comes to recording a podcast, interviewing professional athletes, playing on the field, or even trimming below the waist. And for that last one, Manscaped has helped out tremendously with their Performance Package 4.0. Inside the Performance Package 4.0, you'll find the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, Crop Preserver ball deodorant, Crop Reviver toner, Performance boxer briefs, and even a travel bag. Slotted at quarterback, we've got the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer. This spaceship is here to guide you on your journey to trim your body, balls, and even your A-gap. This 4th generation trimmer also features a cutting edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin safe technology. The Lawnmower 4.0 has a 7,000 RPM motor, a new multifunction on off switch that can engage in a travel lock, and is even waterproof. The Lawnmower 4.0 also has a 4000K LED spotlight, brighter than Bryce Young's future in the end zone. The Performance Package 4.0 also includes the Weed Whacker, the ultimate flex. Watch it run through your ear and nose hairs like Aaron Donald runs through to sack your favorite quarterback. The Weed Whacker is also waterproof and uses 9,000 RPM motor-powered 360-degree rotary dual blade system. This ear and nose hair trimmer provides proprietary skin safe technology, which helps reduce nicks, snags, and tugs in those sensitive ear and nose holes. Don't forget to use the Crop Preserver ball deodorant and the Crop Reviver to help your little bench warmers be on their A game while feeling the sun's heat. Manscaped even threw in 2 free gifts to the Performance Package 4.0, the Manscaped Boxers and the Shed Travel Bag. So who's the commissioner now? Get 20% off plus free shipping with code WEBALL at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code WEBALL, WEBALL, at manscaped.com. It's time to put the PP back in PPR and get a grip on your pigskin this season with Manscaped. He's just a good football player, and I think a lot of people aren't thinking about him because of where he got drafted. Like, that's somebody who should have easily been a day 1 or day 2 guy. And
there was just injury worries, and I get it.
Yeah,
especially with
right now he's practicing. So if those are not big enough concerns to hold him out right now, you're looking at a guy who is a day 1 to day 2 talent in my eyes, day 1, who is now on a team where he has an opportunity to just ball out and doesn't have the rush to be the starter immediately. Can play that second tight end role like he kind of played at Georgia because Brock Bowers was on that roster. Yeah, exactly. And we've got O-lineman coming up next. You kind of mentioned an O-lineman playing tight end. I'm going to mention somebody who again, another Senior Bowl guy, a guy we got to talk to, and somebody who kind of showed us that we thought, hey, this might be like a day 2 kind of prospect here in Jalen Duncan, somebody who showed out really in Mobile, had great pass protection skills, and is now slotting into a Tennessee Titans roster that has a lot of young football players. And is just going to look to, like they always look to just slot in the best player at every position, even if it's a young guy. And I think that Jalen Duncan is kind of built to produce. The technique is there. The physical traits are there. This is just somebody who, like we said, the minimal stuff we got to see from him in Mobile, it was really all good. And I think just somebody who's able to produce like that on a team that is so heavy based in production. We know when this team had Jonnu Smith on their roster at tight end and Anthony Ferkser was getting more targets. Like they just like to feed guys who produce. And I think that honestly creates a pathway for Jalen Duncan to start on this O-line. And I'm really excited to see what he does there. I know you've got an O-lineman that's a little close to home for you. So who is it?
Call me a homer. Say this isn't, I never said mine were sleepers. Tyler's the one who's saying sleepers. I said these dudes are going to produce and you might not think about them. And the guy that I think a lot of people are going to just not think about is John Michael Schmitz. All right? Johnny Mike, the big fella, the kid who looks like a child, but he's a grown man who will push you to the ground. He's going to start for the Giants like week 1.
For sure. Yeah.
And that O-line now has him, Andrew Thomas, and if Evan Neal comes along, that is a dangerous 3 of 5. And you have Saquon Barkley behind you, and you have Eric Gray behind you, and you have Daniel Jones, who's like, listen, he's a good rushing quarterback. I know
he's a top 5 rushing quarterback in the NFL easily.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't want to say it because I'm a Giants fan, but I'll let other people say it. The guy's quick. He's a little speedy. He likes to make plays with his legs.
And he's in an offense that provides that too.
And then you have so many slot receivers. who like our whole team is slot receivers plus Jalen Hyatt and Isaiah Higgins or Hodgins, geez. Like that he's in a spot where he could be an all pro in 2 years. Like all he has to do is get the ball to Daniel Jones and not let anyone through the middle. And I think he can do that. Like simple as that.
And he gets to go against Dexter Lawrence every day in
In
practice. Like
practice.
there is
And
no
Leonard
better guy to
Williams
go. And
and
Leonard
A.
Williams.
Sean Robinson.
That is such a good trio of guys that you get to throw at him and just kind of let iron sharpen
And they
iron there.
all play differently.
Yeah, and
It's
that
so
you're literally
perfect.
those are the three types of guys you're going to face in the NFL on like pretty much every game, unless you're playing the Rams and you're facing Aaron Donald, who's just all three of them.
Yeah.
Like every other team pretty much has a guy who is a variant of one of those players. So, I mean, he's in a position to
It's
succeed and
perfect.
succeed big time. All the players around him are in place. I think he's just in a, like you said, a position to be really, really good. And we're going to swap lines here and we're going to move on to the defensive line. And I'm going to let you go first because I've taken the last couple. And this is a guy that, similarly to JMS, got drafted pretty high and is a guy we absolutely love.
Yeah. Again, put him on here because I love him. Like simple as that. I like to watch Burrow play. If you have not watched this man versus Michigan State, I would suggest you do so. And his name is Keanu Benton. If you share a name with Keanu Reeves, you're probably good at stuff. And his stuff just so happens to be football, and he's really good at it. He's on a defensive line that's a little crowded, but we all know Mike Tomlin likes to, rotate boys in, let the dogs eat. And this is a dog who likes to eat, and he gonna eat. So Keanu Benton's just gonna be a dude for like a long time who you're like, oh, dude, remember watching Keanu Benton in his first few years and he was like this aggressive pass rush guy, and now he's this well-rounded DT who's an all-pro. Like that's what it's gonna be.
Yeah. I mean, for sure. I think Keanu Benton is just like the guy that you're like, this guy's gonna produce. It was just a matter of what team he ended up on. And I don't know that there was a better fit for him than the Steelers.
There's no
Now
better
I've
fit
got
for any D lineman than the Steelers. I'm just saying.
yeah. I mean, there's no better fit for most defensive players than Pittsburgh. That is just a team that every single level of their defense, they just produce good players consistently. I picked a guy who I think there's a little bit of they drafted two defensive linemen. It was the Bears. They signed defensive linemen on the interior. This is a team that, he's going to have to fight for a little bit of a role. But I think the specialization of this player is going to be what gets him reps, especially on third downs. And that's Zach Pickens,
Love this
who
man.
I think his tape, that one game versus Kentucky, is some
That
of the
fourth
best.
quarter.
That fourth quarter is like it's like watching LeBron and you're like, I need to go get a bucket, and he drops 25 in the fourth quarter. That's what Zach Pickens was doing. They were like, let this man eat one-on-one and let me go get some buckets. The dude was like pulling out a move, then immediately pulling out the counter, then pulling out another move. And it was just like he showed 4 or 5 moves on that one drive, which is more than some other players show in an entire season.
Isaiah
Like,
Foskey.
I'm not gonna bring that up. He's later on my list, so I'm not going to slander Isaiah Foskey here. However, Zach Pickens is just a dog when it comes to the pass rush, and a lot of it just it comes down to consistency. But his burst is second to none when it comes to his first step, and I just think that that's a guy that if this is a defense that can get teams to third down consistently, and you see pass rush reps for Pickens, he will eat, especially against pocket passing quarterbacks who are going to sit in the pocket. This guy will have crazy numbers and crazy pressure stats.
Yeah, I agree. We're gonna move on to edge because you said you have a certain someone later on your list, and I want to roast you for it. So I'm gonna go first, and then I'm just gonna cook you for picking this person. At edge rusher, I have Keanu. I sat on a plane next to his grandpa from Mobile, Alabama to Charlotte, and listen,
Of
Gramps,
course you did.
great guy. Gramps is an awesome dude. He lived in Philly. He lived in New York. We talked about the Northeast. We talked about the South. We talked about Old Dominion. We talked about Georgia Tech. We talked about the fact that Keon White likes to do pottery, I think it was, or maybe painting. He likes real estate. He's getting his real estate license already. He went to Old Dominion, played ball, transferred to GT, got a master's. He's a dog. He's a guy. I love Keon White. I think he's going to succeed, just flat out, full stop. Keon White's a dog. You picked Isaiah Foskey. Talk about it.
I picked Isaiah Foskey because I see the Saints and I see a team that lost a lot of defensive line producers. They lost Davenport. They lost a bunch of interior guys. And we knew that they needed guys who could just get after it and get after the passer. And I know you're saying, hey, Isaiah Foskey might have primarily one move in his bag, being that long arm. But the thing is, if you rotate him in along, like on the opposite side of a Cam Jordan, that's somebody who's going to get opportunities to rush the passer against most likely, like, I mean, if they're putting Cam Jordan on the best guy, he's getting the second best guy. You can rotate guys around. They've got some interior guys who can get after the passer. I just think he could be in favorable scenarios, kind of similarly to Zach Pickens, where if the role isn't large, you could just see a very high amount of production for a smaller role because he's so good at like certain individual things. Do I think his game is super well-rounded? Absolutely
No.
not. But do I think that he's really good at the stuff that he does? Yes. And that's why I'm picking him. Like you said, guys that produce, Isaiah Foskey can produce.
So what you're saying is he's going to long arm his way into a job.
Yes.
Perfect. All I needed. That's all I needed you to say. Was he's just going to long arm his way to be an NFL player.
Yes. And we've got linebackers up next.
All right. We'll talk about linebackers.
On the linebackers.
We'll talk about linebackers. We don't gotta slander a guy. That's not what we like to do on this podcast. We're a positive podcast. That's why we ball.
Exactly. But linebackers here, I picked Dorian Williams.
Of course you did.
Who ended up in Buffalo, of all places, which just, as a Dolphins fan, they like the AFC East hurt my soul this year because so many teams had good drafts and like every team had a good draft in that division. And now I'm scared of facing all these players. And Dorian Williams is one of those guys. Is he the Tremaine Edmonds type? Absolutely not. But is he somebody who is going to make running backs' lives a living hell when he gets going downhill in the run game? Absolutely yes. And with a team like the Bills who have a ton of different defensive linemen that they can throw at you, and like Ed Oliver's eating up blocks, and you've got Von Miller coming back healthy, there's going to be gaps to run through as far as
I forgot about Von Miller. That's crazy.
Yeah. There's going to be like one-on-one scenarios where it's Dorian Williams and a running back, and that guy is a heat-seeking missile when he sees something in front of him. Needs to work a little bit on like the play recognition stuff and, you know, getting off of maybe if he's like in a zone, getting off of a guy, getting to the next spot in the zone. Like there's some mobility stuff there, and maybe he could be picked on in the passing game a little bit. But if he sees something coming underneath, he's laying a hit. If he sees a guy running the ball straight towards him, that guy's not getting any extra yards. This is just a guy who swallows up running backs and makes plays when it comes to getting downhill and just hitting dudes. If you get to like week 4 and you're like, here's a Dorian Williams highlight reel of just straight up Madden-esque hit sticks, I would not be surprised.
Yeah, I'll be real with you. That's a very good pick. And him being on that team is kind of nuts. But we're going to move on. I'm picking Henry To'o. I think he's a really good player. I think he's a great leader. I think he's perfect for D'Amico Ryans. There's not much to say about this one, except D'Amico Ryans loves a good linebacker. They don't have many good linebackers. And I think that Henry can do the things that D'Amico wants. He has to work on a few of the things that D'Amico wants. However, he can do most of them, and that's all that matters in the NFL. If you have a few weaknesses, nobody cares as long as you can do the things that they want. But we're going to move on because I don't think there's really much more to say about Henry. So let's talk about cornerbacks because we both unanimously loved this quarterback class. cornerback class, excuse me.
Yes.
And I think I'm gonna put out two. If you have a second one, let's do it.
I've got
Um,
two as well. So go for it.
look at us. We didn't even plan that. Uh, my number one is Juju Julius Brents. Apparently, he wants to be called Juju now. We thought that was a lie that Peter Schrager made up, but it is not.
I thought Julius Brents had his name made up by Peter Schrager and Riley Moss. So
I should have put Riley Moss on here just for vibes, but I didn't.
Yeah, everyone's favorite Pitbull. If you haven't watched the interview, make sure to go
Pitbull, my
watch
boy.
that.
Yeah, everyone go watch that. It's on my X account, like a lot of times. I hate that. Why did I say that? Twitter.
Never again.
That was horrible. All right, I'm picking him because I think he's gonna start because there's a gaping hole at cornerback on that team.
Yes.
And FanDuel really takes a lot out of a team these days, and it took a whole player out of this team and out of the league, and now he's just a TikToker. So I'm putting Julius Juju Brents here because he's gonna start and he's gonna be good, and he has all the makings to be a top 15 cornerback, and he's gonna Tariq Woolen it. And I'm going to be right about my second favorite corner for the 2 straight years. I was right about Tariq Woolen. I'm going to be right about Julius Brents. And we're going to move on with our lives as if it never happened. And my second one is one Tyreek Stevenson. He's just a dog, dude. Like, he's straight up just a dog. And dogs win in the NFL. If you don't have a guy who's willing to put his life on the line for your football team, you're not winning games in the NFL. And that is what he is. I don't even know what team he's on. I'll be honest with you. Maybe he's on the Bears.
He's on the Bears.
I was right. He's on the Bears. He's gonna start.
He's number one on the ESPN depth chart for the one side of the corners. I think it's like right corner or whatever.
Yeah, dude, he's gonna start.
He's listed as number one.
He's playing in Chi-Town. He's a dog. He is playing for the people who saw him at the Senior Bowl. The guy's gonna be nutso. That's all I have to say. He's gonna probably kill somebody on the field. He's just a heat-seeking missile with hands, and he fights people in routes. Just the middle of routes, he'll be fighting you.
Yes, he's huge. Somebody who has really good technique for his size and made a lot of plays in Mobile.
And he is great.
Yes, got hurt, decided hey, I'm gonna play through it for some reps. Like, the dude was talking. We heard him talking back and forth with his agent on the sideline.
He was like, "Get off the field," and he was like, "No," and we were like,
"Yeah,
Tyreek, you should probably get off the field, bro."
We're like, "This is your
stock is so up."
Yeah, but another guy whose stock kind of went up, and is somebody who I think could be in for a big year, is Mekhi Blackman, who is now on the Vikings, another NFC North corner. Jaden Reed said that was his toughest. Was it Jaden Reed saying that was his toughest? Yes.
Jaden Reed was the best wide receiver on day one, and he said that Mekhi Blackman was the toughest matchup.
Yeah, and Mekhi Blackman, big technique guy, very smart corner. That's
cerebral.
What Jaden Reed even mentioned too. This is somebody who, within a day of practice, already rubbed off on so many of the guys as somebody who was flashing out there. And now he goes to a team that is really corner reliant. They have Brian Flores now as their defensive coordinator. So there's going to be a lot of man. So those one-on-one situations you saw Mekhi Blackman win in are very similar to what he's probably going to see in the NFL. So I just think that that's a guy who's in position to start on this team potentially. And the reps he does get make a lot of plays.
Who's going to stop him? Cam Dantzler?
Another guy.
Is he in the NFL still? He might be in the USFL.
Cam Dantzler, I'm not sure. May have been cut. But either way,
moving on.
We're going to move on to my second guy here, who was undrafted, but neither Luke or I thought that he was going to be undrafted.
Are you going to do this right now?
I'm doing this. I went with Rajon Wright, who is another guy that Luke and I were just floored by when we saw his tape, and we're like, this is a really good cornerback prospect.
And we got to talk to him.
We did get to talk to him. You did. And it's just I don't understand why he didn't get drafted.
What did we miss?
I mean, I know it was an extremely deep cornerback class, but you would think that there would still be teams late in the draft that would pick him up. Didn't end up happening. He went undrafted to the Panthers. And that being such a
He's
young
gonna make
team,
that team. He's gonna make
he's
that team.
I really do think that he's gonna make that team or make some team across the league and really just instantly produce for that team when he gets limited reps. It's just a guy that no matter what competition he faced, he never looked overmatched and he played some really good players. And I just think that there's not much else to say about him. He is an undrafted guy. You do have to get past that. But if he does get on a roster, people are going to be wondering why their team didn't take Rajon right.
All right, last position. And I think we should throw in a vibes guy at the end just for fun. Who's going to be our vibes guy this season? But before we get there, we're going to safeties. And I'm sorry, Tyler, but I took the gimme. Sidney Brown he's going to start for the Eagles, and they rely on that position a lot, and he plays the exact position they need, and he's probably most of the reason why Gardner Johnson is a Lion and was basically going to be a mercenary for a year, but is now out for the season.
Prayers up for CJ, man.
Yeah, bro, that's horrible. But Sidney Brown's cool. He's short, has got good hair. And I think that's what I look for.
And him and his brother are both just like insanely built human beings. Like
and they're Canadian. And that's really all of the things I look for. So you have to have a twin, be short and great hair and Canadian
and
to be my favorite safety. So welcome to the book, Sidney Brown. It's a party up in here. You're like the only guy. So that's all I got, really.
Since we're just going with our guys, my safety, we know who it is. It's Jamie Robinson.
Yeah, bro.
Talked to him at the Senior Bowl. I talked to him before his pro day. I really loved what I saw on tape. Just somebody who honestly didn't show the amount of versatility that we later learned he had. Like he was somebody who played a lot of box safety and like moved around a decent amount. But then at the Senior Bowl was playing single high and was like making plays with single high.
Center field.
And I'll always bring up the play where he was in the red zone and he was playing single high and there was a receiver coming over the middle. He slammed the door, just cut in front of him, and Darius Rush dove behind him for a pick. That play just rings in my memory all the time. And that's why he's my safety. We got to wrap this up quickly. We're running out of time. Who's your vibes guy?
My vibes guy is Riley Moss. I'm going to assume yours is probably going to be Tyson. That's just a guess. I could be wrong.
Oh, yeah, no, for sure. Tyson, I think any of the guys, really all the guys we talked to on here are the vibes guys. Like
I agree.
Eric Gray, what a vibe.
Vibes guy.
That's
I'm picking Eric.
That was your vibes guy. Really, like, there's just so many fun rookies in this class, and I think that it's really going to be a fun season for a lot of them, especially the guys we got to talk to and talk about on this list.
All right, so this has been the Wee Ball Podcast, and we are so broke that we don't have Zoom Premium, so I have less than a minute to wrap this up. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. However you are ingesting this content, we appreciate you. Like, comment, subscribe, leave a 5-star on Spotify, Apple. Leave a review because we like to hear words of affirmation. And that is all. Goodbye.